Welcome back, fellow coders. My name is Fernando, and today we're going to start something new. I'm going to try to teach you guys a little bit of C++ while I learn how to use Vim. So if you see me doing mistakes in Vim or being slow about how I move around Vim, it's because I just started to learn it. And before we start, I wanted to it's been a while since I did a video. I think the last one I did was around Christmas time. It just been crazy. Had a new job after Christmas, and just got tons of projects, tons of things to do at work, and just time is very, very limited. But I want to learn Vim, and I decided to reconnect with C++. It was a language that I tried to learn after I left the Navy back in 2008. So I started learning in 2009, and I had a really, really tough time learning it as my first language. Everything looked like Chinese, as you know, when you're learning a new language. So I want to sort of reconnect with that. So let me tell you a little bit about the setup. I'm running Linux here, and it's an Ubuntu, which is a sort of a lightweight version of Ubuntu, and it's pretty simple to set it up. You just set up a virtual box and point to the ISO, and then just go through the steps to set it up. Mine is 12 gigabytes in space. I did dynamically allocation, and I set the RAM for 1 gigabyte. So we're going to be using strictly the terminal and Vim to work with our C++ files and compiling. If you feel like this is something that you don't want to do, that you don't want to learn Vim, you can use any text editor will do fine. Notepad++, Notepad QQ, Sublime Text, etc. So just don't feel forced like you have to learn Vim if you just want to learn C++. So let's get started. We're gonna first create a folder. In our documents. And I will name this let's say week 1. Inside that folder, we're going to put a new C++ file. So the command for that is touch. Actually, we need to and we'll create a new file. We call this hello world. Just hello. We'll do ls to make sure that it's in there. And then we'll also do vim hello C++. You can do vim hello C++ straight away without having to do touch, but that won't create the file. Once you type vim will open up the hello C++, and it brings up to that file. So the first thing we need to do is include the Iostream. We are using namespace standard, and we'll talk a little bit about this later on. And we'll do printf. And we'll do return 0. And if you don't know what all of this means, don't worry. I'm going to come back and we're going to talk about what it does. But for now, We just want to test and make sure that your compiler and everything is running. So we'll hit WQ, and that will exit Vim and we'll save the file. We will then compile that, and the command for that will be G++, and we'll call our file. If there's no compiler errors, then it will spit out an a.out file, which is sort of like the exe file. And we can actually launch this. And there is your output there. Now that we know that our C++ compiler is working, we can go ahead and do something a little bit more exciting, right? We'll clear our terminal and we will create a new file. And we'll call this average student. And in this file, we'll include our Iostream library. Using our namespace standard. And here we want to print to the terminal a prompt. So we want to say enter five numbers. Now remember that at the end of each statement, we need to have a semicolon. Now with sin, that's how we take input from the user. Now before we do any sort of calculation, let's just make sure that this works before we get any further. We'll use cout. And in the same fashion, we'll output all the values that we enter to the console. Return 0 is something that we need in order to let main that is finished. So we'll save and exit. We'll compile, and now let's run the program. So that is my fifth number. Then after that, it should print to the console. And there are all the numbers. So let's go back to our file. And now now let's do a computation. So the average is going to be these 5 numbers divided by 5, right? So we can do open parentheses and we'll sum all those values and then we'll divide by 5. And then we can say that the student average is, so once we do our average, then we want to make sure that we output that to the console so the student knows what their yearly average is for the class. So we will compile one more time. And we'll do our numbers again. Let's say 89, 78, 66, 99, 75. And the student average is 81 points for the average of 5. And so let's go back to the file and explain what's going on. So this first line, the include Iostream, we are actually adding that because that's the input and output stream library. And in terms of C++, we call these the Iostream header file. So it's going, looking for that file, and that's how we have all of these functions, the cout and the cin, available in our C++ program. The standard is also a library. If we this line here, using namespace standard, the standard is another library that we have available, but it's defined inside a namespace, and we don't want to get too deep with that right now because we are starting, but just know that this is another library. Main, this is our main method, our main function, and this is where our C++ program knows that, hey, this is where we're going to start. This always have to be a main function, otherwise the program won't know what to do. And here we start getting into the actual program. Cout is a function that we get in our standard library, and we are outputting a string to the console. if you see the purple in between double quotes, that's our string. And then we tell cout that we want to end outputting stuff to the console with the NL. Here in this line, we are declaring 5 integer variables. Here we have 5 of the same thing, 5 numbers, so I'll put them on the same line, but you don't have to put them on the same line. It can be separate lines. The next one is sin, and you can tell that the arrows are going to the right, and that kind of tells you that we're getting input from the console into the program. Cout is the other way, is going to the left, and that kind of tells you that we're putting output stuff to the console. Here we do a simple calculation. We add all the numbers and then we divide by 5, and that gives you your student average, and we call that variable average. Lastly, we print our student average, which is very important to the user, so they know what is their grade. And I'm going to make one change here. I'm just going to get rid of this space. And lastly, we return 0, and this is something that we have to do in order to let main function that we are done. We'll run this again. And actually, before we compile this one again, we're going to give it one more argument. And this is going to be average student, just like that. And that's going to give you the average student file where we can execute, rather than having the a.out default file. Just make it a little bit more cleaner. So if we do ls, now you see that we have another executable, and that's indicated by the green color. So we'll do 5 numbers again. And this student got a really low grade for the semester. One thing that I want to show you, just so you get used to it in the future. I'm going to make an error here. I'm actually going to make 2 errors. Let's get rid of a semicolon here. We save our program and let's compile again. And we get compiler errors. Now, compiler errors are very useful because they tell you what you need to fix in order to compile the program. So in this case, we know what happened because I deleted the stuff, but you read the first error. We have an expected comma or semicolon before scene, and then on line 14 we have another error. Print was not declared in the scope. Do you want to use print f? So let's go ahead and fix that. let's add a new line. Save again, and let's compile. And we're able to compile now. And there you have it. So this tutorial was sort of get our feet wet a little bit in C++. I haven't done videos in a while, so I'm trying to get back into the routine of doing videos and learning Vim, as I said. So in the next video, the way this is going to be going for this particular session, we're going to build up to a sort of little project that we're going to do. So we know we want to average student grades in this basic program that we did today, but that's not very useful, right? We want to be able to process several students. We want to be able to process maybe from a text file that we don't have to type stuff in. So in the next video, we're probably going to be building a student class. And then after that, we're going to try to read file data from a file. And hopefully by the third, maybe fourth video, we'll have a fully functional program that can calculate student average for maybe a whole class, and it's going to be all automated. So that's where we're going with that. So thank you for watching. Let me know what you think about my my idea to learn Vim while relearning C++ and teaching you guys some of these basics. Maybe you've heard about Vim, or maybe you haven't heard about it. But either way, if you don't like it, you can always use No++. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.